Keanu Reeves sat quietly in the dressing room of the studio, his hands resting on his knees, his head lowered in calm thought. He had agreed to appear on The View because he believed it was important to speak openly about kindness and humility, even in a world that loved gossip and controversy. Outside his room, the hallway buzzed with producers moving quickly, wires trailing behind them like vines in a jungle. Inside, Keanu could feel a storm brewing, not in the sky, but inside his chest. It wasn't anger yet. It was more like a quiet awareness that sometimes, no matter how good your intentions were, someone might twist your words. He had heard how Joy Behar could be, her sharp tongue like a knife hidden in a smile. But Keanu believed people could surprise you. Maybe today would be different. A young stage hand knocked on the door, his voice shaking a little. "Mr. Reeves, we're ready for you. You look great, by the way." Keanu lifted his eyes and gave the boy a soft smile. "Thank you. You did well with the lights. You have a gift." The boy blushed, surprised that a star like Keanu would even notice. For a moment, the boy forgot how heavy the cameras were. As Keanu stepped out and walked down the hallway, he felt the old memories of his life wash over him. He remembered being that young boy once, carrying lights, sweeping stages, hoping someone would notice he was trying his best. He knew the world could be cruel, but sometimes it only took one kind word to help someone hold on for one more day. When the studio doors opened, bright lights hit Keanu's face. The audience clapped, some even cheered his name. He smiled politely, waved, and sat down on the curved couch next to the other hosts. Joy Behar leaned in, her eyes like searchlights, looking for a crack to break him open. "So, Keanu," she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes, "you're known for being humble. That's cute. But don't you think being so quiet makes you a bit boring? Don't you feel the need to be a real star?" The question cut through the room. The other hosts glanced at each other, sensing the tension. Some of the audience members laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke or an insult. Keanu's face remained still, but inside, something shifted. He took a slow breath. "I think there's enough noise in the world," he said softly, his voice carrying weight even though it was gentle. "Maybe the world needs more listening, more understanding." Joy rolled her eyes. "Oh please, don't you think that's a little naive? People watch you because you fight in movies, you look cool. You can't really believe people care about kindness these days." Keanu turned slightly, looking at her with eyes that had seen more grief and beauty than any gossip could ever guess. "Maybe they don't care yet," he said, his tone steady. "But I do, and sometimes one person caring is enough to start a change." The audience fell silent. Someone in the back cleared their throat, embarrassed by how raw the moment felt. The cameras kept rolling, catching every flicker of emotion. Joy wasn't done. She leaned forward, her voice sharper now. "You've lost people, haven't you? You know the world is cruel. Isn't kindness just a mask for weakness? What good has it done you?" Really, the question was like salt on an old wound. Keanu felt memories rise like smoke. His lost love, his unborn child, friends gone too soon. For a moment, he wanted to stand up and leave right then. But then he saw the stage hand in the corner, holding the lights steady, eyes wide with hope. Keanu swallowed the ache in his chest. He sat up straighter, his back strong, his hands calm. "Kindness didn't save me from pain," he said, "but it saved me from becoming like the pain." Joy laughed, but the sound cracked. The audience didn't laugh with her this time. Something shifted in the room. People leaned forward. They could feel that this wasn't a movie script. This was real. Keanu looked at Joy, not with anger, but with something even stronger, pity mixed with hope. "You can mock me," he said gently. "You can call me boring. But the truth is, everyone here knows what it feels like to be hurt. We can't stop the hurt, but we can choose who we become because of it." Joy opened her mouth, ready to fire back, but the words died in her throat. For the first time, she felt small on her own show. She looked out at the audience and saw tears in some people's eyes. Keanu stood up. He didn't yell. He didn't insult her. He just looked at her with sad eyes and said, "I hope one day you find your peace, Joy. Maybe then you won't need to break people to feel whole." The audience erupted in claps. Not the forced claps that come when a producer flashes a sign. These were real, raw, from the gut. Keanu nodded at the other hosts, gave a soft wave to the audience, and walked off. The stagehand met him in the hallway, still holding the heavy lights. Keanu put a hand on his shoulder. "Remember," he said, "your light matters more than you think." As Keanu walked out into the cold city air, he felt the weight lift off his chest. He knew the gossip blogs would spin it. They'd say he stormed off. They'd twist his words, but he didn't care. He had spoken his truth, and sometimes that was the only thing that kept the darkness from winning. The wind hit his face. Cold but clean, Keanu Reeves kept walking, each step a reminder that storms could be survived if you held your light steady. Keanu Reeves didn't look back as he left the studio. Outside, the sky was gray, clouds hanging low like heavy secrets. He pulled his coat tighter around him and blended into the city streets, a famous man who moved like a ghost, unnoticed among the noise of car horns and people rushing home. As he walked, his mind replayed the last words he had spoken to Joy Behar. He wondered if maybe he had said too much. Maybe it would be twisted by the morning shows and turned into a circus of headlines. But deep down, he felt something warm inside his chest, a small flame that told him he had done the right thing. He ducked into a small coffee shop he loved, one that never cared who he was. The owner, an older woman named Marie, greeted him with a soft smile. She had known him long before the tabloids did, back when he'd stop in after long nights of filming to sip black coffee and write notes in a battered notebook. "Rough day, Keanu?" Marie asked, pouring him a cup without waiting for an answer. "You could say that," he said, his eyes tired but kind. "I had to remind someone that words can heal or they can wound." She chose to wound. Marie shook her head and patted his hand. "And you chose to heal. That's who you are. The world needs that, even when it doesn't say thank you." Keanu looked out the window, watching people hurry by, their faces hidden behind umbrellas and hunched shoulders. "Sometimes I wonder if it matters, Marie. I feel like a small stone trying to stop a flood." Marie chuckled. "But even a small stone can change the way water moves. Maybe you can't stop the flood, but you can slow it down, make people look at themselves. That's not small." Keanu held her words close. After a while, he finished his coffee, left money on the counter, and hugged Marie. "Thank you for always reminding me who I am." As he stepped outside, the rain began to fall, light but steady. Keanu didn't mind. The rain always felt like a second chance, washing away the noise, giving him room to think. He pulled up his hood and walked to the subway, his steps echoing. In the empty tunnel, he didn't notice the young woman sitting on the bench, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked up when she heard his footsteps and froze. You're Keanu Reeves, right?" He paused, surprised, and gave her a gentle nod. "Yes, are you okay?" The girl laughed, but it was a broken sound. "Do I look okay?" she said, hugging her thin coat tighter. "My boyfriend dumped me. My parents won't talk to me. I have no money. I just wanted to see if anyone would notice me before I disappear." Keanu felt the ache in his chest again. He sat down beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of another human, but far enough that she didn't feel trapped. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emma." Her voice trembled. "Emma, I don't know your story, but I know one thing: you're not invisible. You're here. You matter." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "Why do you care? You're rich, famous. You could be anywhere, with anyone. Why talk to me?" Keanu leaned back, his eyes soft but steady. "Because once, I felt invisible too. I know what it's like to think the world would be better off without you. But it wouldn't be, I promise." Emma sniffed, her shoulders shaking. "What if it never gets better?" Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn coin. He handed it to her. "This is from a movie set years ago. It reminds me that life changes, the good moments pass, but so do the bad ones. Keep it until you believe you can stay." Emma looked at the coin like it was made of gold. "Will you take it back someday?" Keanu smiled. "Only if you promise me you'll still be here to give it back." Emma managed a small, shaky smile. "Okay." The subway roared in the distance, a promise that life would keep moving whether they were ready or not. Keanu stood and helped her up. He walked her to the train, made sure she had a seat, and waited until the doors closed, watching her press the coin to her heart, like a lifeline dot as he left the station. The rain was heavier now, but Keanu felt lighter somehow. He couldn't fix the world in one day, but he could remind one person that they mattered. And maybe that was enough for tonight. He turned his face to the sky, the cold drops mixing with the warmth inside him. Maybe storms weren't always something to run from. Maybe they were reminders that even the strongest winds couldn't wash away the light you carried inside you. Keanu Reeves woke up the next morning to the sound of his phone buzzing non-stop on the nightstand. He let it ring for a while, hoping maybe the world would forget about him for one day. But he knew that wasn't how it worked. He picked up the phone and saw message after message, some from his manager, some from reporters, and some from people he didn't even know. He scrolled through the headlines. They were exactly what he expected. Keanu storms off the View. Keanu Reeves humiliates Joy Behar on live TV. Actor's meltdown or moment of truth. The words all blurred together. He turned the phone face down on the table and stared at the ceiling, trying to find the quiet inside his mind. His manager, Claire, called again. He let it go to voicemail. He knew what she'd say anyway: lay low, do damage control, say something to calm the media down. But Keanu had never been good at playing games. He got up, splashed cold water on his face, and looked at his reflection. The man staring back at him looked tired, but not broken. That was enough. Later that day, Claire showed up at his apartment anyway. She let herself in with the spare key he'd given her years ago, back when he was doing 3 movies at once and needed someone to remind him to eat. She stood in the doorway, holding 2 coffees and a stack of papers. "Keanu, you're killing me," Claire said, half joking, half exhausted. "Do you know how many people are talking about you right now? They want an apology. They want you to make peace with Joy. They want you to say you didn't mean what you said." Keanu took the coffee from her and sat down on the couch. "But I did mean it, every word." Claire dropped the papers on his coffee table. "I know you did. That's the problem. The world isn't kind to people who tell the truth. They'll eat you alive and spit you out." He looked at her, his eyes calm but sharp. "So what should I do, Claire? Pretend I didn't stand up for what I believe in? Let people like Joy keep tearing others apart?" She sighed and sat next to him. "I'm not asking you to change who you are, you know that. But I want you to think about what this means for the people who believe in you. You're more than just an actor to them. You're proof that goodness can survive in a world that doesn't always value it. If you disappear now, they'll think kindness loses in the end." Keanu let her words sink in. He thought of the stage hand at the studio, the young woman at the subway. He thought about all the people who watched him and saw not a superstar, but a man who refused to give up on the better side of human nature. "Maybe you're right," he said, "but I won't apologize for speaking the truth. Not for her sake. I'll do it for the ones who need to hear it." Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a single piece of paper. "There's an open mic event tomorrow. Charity fundraiser. No cameras. No gossip bloggers. Just real people, real stories. I think you should go. Remind people who you are before they decide for you." Keanu turned the paper over in his hands. It was a flyer for a small community center, the kind that smelled like old books and fresh coffee. It felt right. "Okay," he said, a soft smile tugging at his lips, "but only if you come with me. I want you to read too." Claire laughed, but her eyes shone with gratitude. "Deal. I'll write something. But you better not chicken out first." The next evening, the community center was warm and alive with the hum of people who carried stories inside them like flickering candles. Keanu sat in the back, his hood pulled low, listening as strangers stood up to share pieces of their hearts. Some spoke about love, some about loss, some about hope so small you could barely see it, but you could feel it. When it was his turn, Claire squeezed his hand before he stepped onto the tiny stage. There was no spotlight, just a single lamp hanging above him, casting gentle shadows on his face. He took a deep breath and looked at the small crowd. People of all ages, eyes wide, waiting. "Hi," he said, his voice steady but warm. "I don't have a script tonight. I just want to tell you a story about a man who once felt invisible. He thought if he made movies and did stunts and wore fancy suits, people would see him. But even then, he felt alone. Then he learned that the only way to really be seen is to see others first. He paused, watching the nods in the audience. Kindness isn't a weakness, Keanu continued. It's not a mask, it's a shield. It's the only thing that keeps the pain from turning you into someone you're not. In the back, Claire felt tears burn her eyes. She saw how the room leaned in, how the world outside seemed to disappear for a while. I don't care what they say about me on TV, Keanu said, his voice growing stronger. I care about the boy holding the lights backstage, the girl on the subway platform, the person who thinks they're not worth noticing. You matter, you're seen, and your kindness will outlive every headline they write about you. When he finished, the room fell silent for a heartbeat before soft claps rose up, slow but sure, like raindrops turning into a river. People stood, not because they were told to, but because they felt it. Keanu stepped down from the stage, and Claire wrapped him in a hug. You did good, she whispered. You reminded them that storms pass. Keanu closed his eyes and let himself believe, for the first time in a long time, that maybe the world still had room for gentle souls who refused to break. The next morning, Keanu Reeves woke up with a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't quite hope, but it was something close like a soft light pushing through the cracks of an old wall. The small community center event had reminded him that sometimes it didn't take millions to feel heard. Sometimes all it took was a single room full of hearts willing to listen. His phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't just angry headlines. People had recorded his speech at the open mic. Snippets had gone viral on social media, but not in the tabloid way. Strangers were sharing his words, adding their own stories of times when kindness had saved them, when someone's gentle word had made them stay when they wanted to leave. Keanu sat at his kitchen table, scrolling through messages that felt more like lifelines than gossip. A nurse wrote, I watched you speak last night. Today I didn't shout at a patient who was rude. I remembered your words. Kindness is a shield. A teenager wrote, I gave my lunch to a kid who never eats at school. I felt brave because of you. Each message planted something inside Keanu something. He knew he had to protect. Later that day, Claire called. This time her voice was lighter, a laugh hidden behind her words. So much for laying low, huh? Keanu chuckled. I never was good at hiding. There's something you should see. Claire said, come by my office. I have an idea. When Keanu arrived at Claire's small, cluttered office, she handed him a stack of papers. They were letters, real ones, written by hand, dozens of them. He sat on the old leather couch and began reading. Stories of grief and hope, loss and survival. Every letter felt like a person standing in front of him saying, please see me. They're asking for you to speak more, Claire said, sitting across from him. Not in movies, not in interviews with people like Joy. They want you to tell the truth, the way you did last night. Maybe it's time you use your voice for something bigger. Keanu leaned back, staring at the ceiling, the letters resting on his lap. What do you mean, like motivational speeches? He laughed, shaking his head. That's not me, no, Claire said, smiling. Not a motivational speaker. Just a you, honest, raw, real. Maybe you do a series. Talk about grief, kindness, surviving heartbreak. No big sets, no fancy lights. Just you and the people who need to hear you. Keanu thought about it. The idea scared him more than jumping off buildings in his films. This was real. This was his scars, unhidden. But then he remembered Emma, the girl at the subway, and the boy backstage. He remembered the way people looked at him that night at the community center, not like he was a star, but like he was proof that pain could be survived. Okay, he said finally, but it has to stay small, real, no big producers telling me what to say. Claire nodded. We'll start local. I know a few community spaces, schools, shelters. You just talk. I'll help record it. Keep it simple. Over the next few weeks, Keanu traveled to places that never made the news. He visited shelters where people lined up for bread and blankets. He sat in circles with teenagers who felt forgotten. He went to schools where kids stared at him like he was a hero, but he always told them, "I'm not your hero. You are. You're here. You're fighting to stay kind in a world that tells you not to be." One night, in a small town hall, he told the story about Joy Behar again, how her sharp words had cut him, but how they had given him a chance to show that storms don't have to break you. He spoke about his losses too, the ones the tabloids always turned into gossip. He talked about losing people he loved, about feeling invisible, about waking up and choosing to be kind anyway. People cried, people clapped, people hugged him after, shy but desperate to feel close to that quiet light he carried. And still, the world kept talking. Joy Behar herself went on air and tried to spin the story her way. She joked that Keanu had become a soft guru for sad people. The audience laughed, but it sounded empty. When Claire showed him the clip later, Keanu just shook his head. "Let her say what she wants. She needs it." You don't care." Claire asked. Keanu thought for a moment. "I care. More about the ones who believe in what we're doing. That's the only thing that matters now." One night, after another small gathering in a church basement, Keanu stood outside alone. Snow drifted down, soft and silent, covering the city in a blanket of quiet. An old man walked up to him, shoulders hunched, coat too thin for the colder Mr. Reeves, the man said, voice shaking, "My wife and I watched you tonight. I just wanted to say, you made me want to go home and hold her hand. I haven't done that in years." Keanu felt his throat tighten. He reached out, squeezed the man's shoulder. "That's all that matters. Go home. Hold her hand." As the man shuffled away, Keanu looked up at the sky. The stars were hidden behind clouds, but he felt them there anyway, like hope just out of sight but never gone. For the first time since that fiery showdown on The View, Keanu felt truly at peace with what had happened. He knew now that storms could be blessings if you let them wash away the noise and leave only the truth behind. He pulled his coat tighter, the snow melting on his shoulders, and walked into the night, carrying stories that would light the way. For people he hadn't even met yet, *weeks turned into months, and the world didn't stop talking about Keanu Reeves. But what people didn't expect was how the conversation changed. What started as gossip about him storming off a talk show turned into something bigger, something deeper. People began sharing his words, not just for clicks, but because they needed them. Keanu's small talks in community centers and school gyms turned into local gatherings that overflowed with people. He never asked for tickets or promotion. He'd just show up, stand in front of whoever came, and speak from his scars. There were no bright lights or fancy backdrops, just folding chairs, coffee in paper cups, and strangers who left feeling less alone. One cold evening, Claire found him sitting on the back steps of a church after a talk. She sat down next to him, shivering as the wind slipped through her coat. "You know you can't keep doing this alone," she said, her breath white in the air. Keanu stared out at the empty parking lot, the glow of streetlights catching on the snow. "I'm not alone. I have you." Claire elbowed him gently. "You know what I mean. People want to help. They want to be part of this. It can be more than just you standing in rooms. You can build something that lasts." Keanu's brow furrowed. "I don't want it to turn into a business, Claire. Kindness isn't something you sell, I know," she said softly. "But what if it's something you share? You could start a foundation, support shelters, schools, places that help people who feel invisible. People would trust it because it's you, because you walk the talk." He didn't answer right away. He watched his breath float into the night, thought about all the letters he still carried in his backpack, stories from people who found hope in his words. "Okay," he said finally, "but no big corporate donors who want to put their name on a plaque. No giant galas. I want it simple, real." Claire nodded. "Simple and real, just like you." It didn't take long for word to spread. Fans and strangers, young and old, wrote in to volunteer. They called it the Lighthouse, a name chosen by a teenager who said, "You're like a lighthouse, Mr. Reeves. You help people find their way back when they're lost." The first lighthouse opened in a small, rundown building that used to be a library. They cleaned it up, filled it with warm lights, donated books, fresh coffee, and shelves of blankets and food. Anyone could walk in, no questions asked, no judgment given. There was always someone ready to listen, to sit beside you, to remind you mattered. Keanu was there every week. He didn't hide in an office or stand above anyone. He sat on the worn couches, reading to kids, helping an old woman fill out forms for housing, hugging teenagers who hadn't felt safe enough to cry in front of anyone before. And the world kept watching. Reporters came, expecting to find a secret, scandal, but they found people smiling, eating together, helping each other. They found Keanu on his knees, fixing a broken bookshelf, sleeves rolled up, laughing with a boy who called him the nicest man alive. One day, the same young stagehand from The View showed up at the lighthouse. His name was Adam. He looked older now, braver somehow. He handed Keanu a small envelope. Inside was a photo. Keanu backstage at the show, hand on Adam's shoulder. A tiny moment caught forever. You probably don't remember, Adam said, his voice shaking a little. But you told me my light mattered. That's why I kept going. I'm in film school now. I want to make stories like yours, about people who don't give up. Keanu hugged him tight. I remember, Adam. I always will. The next night, Keanu found himself alone in the lighthouse after everyone had gone home. The chairs were stacked, the coffee pot washed, the soft hum of the city barely breaking the warm silence. He sat by the window, watching the snow drift down in the streetlight glow. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. Joy Behar wants to meet privately. She says she wants to talk. Keanu stared at the screen, a dozen old feelings bubbling up inside him. The showdown that had started all this, the sharp words that cut him on national TV. He wondered what she could possibly want now. He typed back, "Tell her I'll meet her tomorrow, but not at a studio. Here." He set the phone down and looked around. The lighthouse, the old library, turned sanctuary for broken hearts. He thought about how storms could tear you down, but they could also clear the way for new things to grow. He closed his eyes, breathing in the soft, comforting smell of old books and fresh coffee. He was ready for whatever tomorrow would bring, because now he knew storms don't just destroy, they reveal the light inside you that refuses to go out. Keanu Reeves stood near the entrance of the lighthouse the next afternoon, waiting outside. The winter sun broke through the clouds, sending thin rays through the frosted windows. He could see his breath when he exhaled, but inside, the warmth of the old library turned sanctuary, wrapped around him like a soft blanket. When the door opened, Joy Behar stepped in. She looked smaller than she did on TV, her sharpness softened by the quiet of the place. She held her purse tight to her chest, her eyes scanning the room lined with books, warm blankets, and the faint smell of coffee that lingered like an old friend. Keanu walked up to her, calm but strong. "Thank you for coming, Joy." Joy hesitated, then gave a stiff nod. "This place, it's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Keanu asked gently. She shrugged, her eyes darting around, not ready to meet his. "Some publicity. Stunt, maybe. Something to make you look like a saint while I'm the villain." Keanu sighed, his voice softer now. "Joy, I didn't invite you here for the cameras. There are no cameras here. Just people. People who hurt. People who heal." Joy finally looked at him. For a moment, the mask she wore on TV slipped. She looked tired, older, almost fragile. "You made me look like a monster." Keanu shook his head. "You did that to yourself, but I didn't come here to argue. I came because I believe people can change, even you." He motioned for her to sit. They found the old chairs by the window where the sun lit up dust motes like tiny stars. Joy sank into hers, shoulders stiff. Keanu leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his eyes kind but unflinching. "Why did you want to see me?" he asked. Joy single quotes S. Eyes flickered. "After that day, the hate I got, it was worse than I thought. I thought I was untouchable, but the world turned so fast. And then I saw the video, you, talking in schools, helping people, and it made me think, what if I was wrong? What if kindness isn't weakness?" Keanu listened, his silence like a soft blanket around her fear. "I don't know how to fix it," she whispered, her voice cracking. "How do you undo words that cut people?" Keanu sat back, looking around the lighthouse. "You don't undo them, you replace them word by word, act by act, you show up for people. You listen more than you talk. You do what you're doing right now, admitting you were wrong. Joy's eyes filled with tears. She wiped them with the back of her hand, embarrassed. Do you hate me? Keanu shook his head slowly. No, but I feel sorry for you. And I hope you find your own light, Joy. You can't keep throwing shadows on other people forever. It doesn't fix your own darkness. The room fell silent except for the sound of children laughing somewhere in the back. The warmth of the place worked on her like slow medicine. After a while, Joy stood. Could I help? Here. Clean floors, serve coffee, whatever. Keanu smiled, a small spark of hope in his eyes. If you're ready to be part of the light, there's always a place for you here. Joy managed a shaky laugh. Never thought you'd forgive me. Keanu stood too. It's not about forgiving you for me. It's about letting you forgive yourself. When she left later, she looked lighter somehow, like someone who had set down a heavy bag she'd carried for too many years. Keanu watched her go, then turned to the young volunteers setting out fresh blankets, checking on the people curled up with books and coffee. Adam, the stagehand who had once carried lights for him, walked up with a big grin. Mr. Reeves, you think the storms are finally over? Keanu looked around the lighthouse. The small miracles that kept happening every day. Storms never stop, Adam. But maybe we don't have to stand alone in the rain anymore. That night, he sat by the window as snow fell again. He thought about the boy backstage, the girl at the subway, the old man who held his wife's hand. Again, he thought about all the people who carried storms inside them, never knowing they could share the burden. Keanu Reeves had once walked off a stage feeling misunderstood, mocked for his kindness. But that same storm had swept him into a new life, one where his pain wasn't hidden away, but turned into a shelter for others. Outside, the snow covered the city like a soft promise. Inside, the lighthouse glowed warm, a place where broken people could come and out of the cold, find each other, and remember that sometimes the kindest souls were the strongest after all. And Keanu, sitting quietly by the window, knew in his bones that storms don't always destroy you. Sometimes they reveal who you were always meant to be.